Welcome to this training. My name is Vanessa Vonderheide with the HR team at Cooper Surgical. As part of the CSI onboarding process for people leaders, this video equips viewers with a baseline understanding of what job architecture is, how CSI established it, and why it's strategically important. Our key points today are going to be to provide an overview of job architecture methodology and what it means for managing talent, to provide communication guidance, that is questions to expect, communication principles that apply to job-related conversations with team members, and leadership habits that develop trust, as well as reminding managers of the annual timing for performance reviews and merit decisions. We're here to help you understand job architecture, which is a market-based framework that establishes a progressive compensation structure for all Cooper Surgical jobs globally. If that sounds complicated, this video will help you understand what this description means. Job architecture is the foundation to our culture of growth. By having a progressive compensation structure, we are more clearly defining how employees can grow their careers here at Cooper Surgical. We'll talk more about this idea today too. We've put a lot of energy into developing our job architecture because we know how important it is to equip people leaders like you with all the tools that you need. At a fundamental level, job architecture is a framework to help you, 1, use the competitive benchmark data that we've collected to establish pay ranges for every job at Cooper Surgical, 2, plan for team growth by knowing what to expect when you budget for new members of your team, and 3, recruit, retain, engage, and develop talent, especially since your team members expect your guidance in determining what they need to do to advance at Cooper Surgical. Job architecture is a framework that exists behind the scenes, so it's primarily an administrative tool for people leaders. It won't necessarily be visible to individual contributors on your team, but we wanted to be sure that people leaders understand it, since it helps you shape the overall employee experience in positive ways. Research shows that direct supervisors are the most trusted true north source of information for every employee. That makes you the most important communicators for our company. That's why we've put this video together. We're asking you to use our job architecture to help every employee navigate their career journey with Cooper Surgical. To help people understand how we developed our job architecture and why it's an important step forward for Cooper Surgical, we've created this comprehensive one-page overview to help people leaders understand our structure and why it's strategically important. The one-pager explains the process we have used to develop our job architecture. It's important to note, though, that job architecture is not frozen in time. Because we know we need to stay competitive wherever we do business, job architecture gives us an ongoing process to adapt whenever we need to add new jobs or respond to changes in a global job market. We'll talk more about this in 1 minute. This one-pager, though, is a good reference for managers. We framed it to make sure all audiences will benefit from it, but it's primarily a tool for people leaders. You don't need to distribute this document to your team members. Let's take a few minutes to dive deeper into each component of this one-pager. The one-pager provides us an overview of the 2 important steps we have taken to establish our job architecture. 1, job matching and leveling. Fundamentally, our job architecture started with a careful internal review of the jobs that support every function, business area, and geographic region within Cooper Surgical. We carefully and painstakingly reviewed all jobs and job families, jobs within each business unit and functional area, to understand what skill, education, and experience are needed as someone advances within that area. By understanding the progressive skills, education, and experience that are needed for the different levels of support, we've been able to define distinct job levels for all positions at Cooper Surgical. This process took us a great deal of time, about 18 months. That's because we put significant energy into ensuring that all job levels are consistent across the organization based on every single job description. This careful process made sure that we created one consistent structure for all business areas, functions, and geographic regions. Sometimes our process required looking at what different job titles meant in different areas of our company. Over time, Cooper Surgical has grown through acquisitions, so a title in one part of the company may not have been the same level of responsibility in another. So our process evaluated each job description, not just job titles alone, to set equitable job levels that are consistent no matter where that job is located within our company. Once CSI adopted these rational, consistent levels across the organization, we then were able to compare every job at every level with external data to match internal job descriptions for similar external jobs. This is what we call job matching, and it's a careful process to ensure that we're comparing our own compensation with the market rate for jobs with similar skills and education and experience. To make sure that we had the correct information, all our leveling and matching was validated by leaders in each business area and function. Our matching process did not end with finding a general external job matching within our industry. We went deeper to understand how we compete with every geographic region where we operate. This required looking at the company conditions in every pay zone where we do business. The metropolitan area that a layperson would agree is a cohesive economic area. We know that for each position, we're competing for talent in these pay zones, so our compensation ranges need to reflect things like the cost of living and the local demands for certain types of skills and experience. Again, this job leveling and matching process is not frozen in time or set in stone. It's an iterative process. We adapt our job architecture whenever we have new competitive information about different job markets or when we need to add new jobs to our structure. This iterative process gives each manager a great deal of discretion. As a people leader, you'll continue to help us refine how jobs are leveled and help us make sure that we are adjusting our architecture based on evolving job demand and movements in the job market. Secondly, global compensation benchmarking. Let's take a moment about how we benchmark our jobs and pay ranges against data from similar jobs outside CooperSurgical. As I've mentioned, once we established a consistent set of levels across the company and made sure each job aligned with an internal CooperSurgical level, we were able to benchmark compensation for every internal job with data on similar external jobs. Benchmarking is a thorough process of comparing internal CSI jobs to external jobs using reliable, up-to-date, verifiable compensation data. CooperSurgical subscribes to multiple third-party data providers, all of whom are the most respected data providers in their field, to make sure that we can review and validate the range of compensation that is competitive for every job. These annual paid subscribers are an important investment for CSI. By subscribing to these providers, we access the latest surveys and data on compensation for a wide array of industry jobs in every geographic region. And because we subscribe to different providers, some of whom have stronger data in certain industries and global regions, we can compare information and validate compensation ranges right down to a specific job description and location. Before job architecture existed, managers often lacked reliable, consistent data to assemble competitive compensation offers for new hires. Now, all managers have this information at their fingertips. This data is updated with new market information when it's available. Our data providers publish new surveys annually, and if managers have questions about compensation ranges, HR business partners are totally equipped with the latest comparative survey data. So what have we gained from our approach? Our job architecture process represents an important milestone for CooperSurgical. We now have a clear, consistent definition compensation ranges for every job in every part of the world where we do business. Because we have access to competitive data, every manager now knows the pay ranges, often referred to as the minimum, midpoint, and maximum for every role in the company. Our job levels are consistent across the company, while our compensation data is based on the specific geography, function, or business area where the job is located. Secondly, an important balance between internal fairness and external competitiveness. Internally, we have a leveling structure that helps us continue to be equitable and fair in how we define progressive compensation within our company. Externally, we have the information to remain competitive as we recruit and retain talent for every job. It's this internal and external balance that sets the stage for our strategic growth. So how is our job architecture strategically important? Job architecture gives us an important set of strategic advantages as a company. When we defined our Advancing Together strategy, Holly and other leaders highlighted that people are our #1 strategic advantage. That's because A, CooperSurgical is a knowledge-based company that grows and advances based on the innovative contributions of our people. And B, our customers, clinicians, and patients trust our people to come through every day, even under the most challenging circumstances. We have weathered the COVID pandemic, for instance, only because our people have stepped up in important ways. In particular, we have made sure our patients have never had to wait, we have maintained sufficient inventory, we have stayed ahead of customer needs, and our people continue to take important steps to keep their team members safe and our facilities open. By creating a structure that helps managers design career paths for their team members, job architecture fundamentally supports our priority to make potential career growth clearer for our people. Because we have better market information, we're able to maintain our competitive edge. We can anticipate what competitive pay looks like for every job, which means managers are not only better able to compete for talent, but they also have better information as they set annual budgets for their teams. I do want to emphasize, though, that job architecture is not designed to cut costs. In fact, job architecture represents an important long-term investment in how we manage talent. Even though job architecture is not about cutting costs, it does give us the competitive data that we need to make smarter decisions within our progressive compensation structure. More than ever before, we know how important it is for employees to work at companies that are accountable, equitable, and unbiased in how they compensate and reward performance. Our job architecture is a prime example of our commitment to an equitable, unbiased workplace where career progression is based on skill, experience, and the business needs for every role. Job architecture is fundamentally designed to help you set priorities as a manager. Our structure does not take the place of any manager's discretion in setting priorities and rewarding performance. Performance reviews in the merit process continue to give managers the ability to evaluate the contributions of every team member and recognize outstanding work. Job architecture simply provides more structure as you set performance expectations and allocate rewards to your teams. When we look at what employees seek today, we know how important it is for current and future colleagues to work for a global company that offers vertically within business area and laterally towards jobs in other business areas, functions, and regions. A company that collaborates globally is much more appealing than a place where an employee's experience is disjointed and growth opportunities are hard to see. That's why it's so important for us to operate as one Cooper Surgical with one shared job architecture. Ultimately, job architecture is one piece of a bigger effort to become an employer of choice. It's a platform that not every employee will necessarily see on a day-to-day basis, but it provides a consistent structure to support professional growth and better compete for talent wherever we do business. So now let's address some questions you may encounter. Job architecture is largely a tool for managers. Individual contributors may not have many or really any questions about our architecture, but at the same time you may encounter some questions from colleagues or team members about pending job opportunities, our progressive structure, or other concerns related to career growth. Any questions related to career growth can be sensitive, so we've put together a set of challenging questions that you might hear. Question 1. Are websites like Glassdoor, PayScale, and Salary.com just as reliable for company pay ranges in our industry? The answer is no. Job finding websites and staffing firms generally use anecdotal reports and salaries from people who join the platform and volunteer this info. This info is not validated and cannot be independently verified. Companies like ours do not use these websites as benchmarking sources because their data is unreliable and the firms behind these platforms are not always accountable for the estimates they share. Question number 2. Are we leveling people or leveling jobs? Jobs are leveled, not people. Understanding this distinction can help people who report to you separate the concept of job leveling from the performance review and merit process. CSI adopted job architecture to create a structure for jobs and the baseline skills and experience required for different levels of support. Setting job levels is not about any individual, and it's not meant to reward or penalize any employee. The performance review and merit process, not job leveling, is the way that we evaluate and reward individual performance. Next question. Will high performers lose pay during the merit process? No. We have carefully designed our reward process to make sure no employee will lose pay if their base rate for their current position is above the maximum range of compensation for a particular role. In cases where compensation for a position is above the maximum, we're equipping managers with options and tools to move forward. These decisions are at the discretion of every manager in consultation with an HR business partner. An example of an option is if at the end of the year, some employees who remain in a role where they're above the maximum compensation range established will be eligible for performance-based increases awarded in the form of a lump sum, bonus format, instead of a base pay percentage increase. Other employees may still receive a percentage increase. This decision is at the manager's discretion in consultation with an HR business partner. As before, any end-of-year merit decision will consider performance within the employee's current role and current set of job responsibilities. Does our job architecture adjust to new realities over time? The answer is yes. We work hard to make sure our competitive data is timely, which means that we subscribe to data providers that update their compensation survey data at least annually. Our job architecture also grows based on the new needs that you and your HR business partner can define together. New positions, evolving responsibilities, different market conditions, etc. Was CSI consistent in adopting our job architecture? What was our motivation? Well, if an employee is questioning CSI's motivations and consistency, this may illustrate a lack of trust that CSI offers as a promising career path that will lead to personal and professional growth. It's important that you ask more questions to make sure you get to the heart of the question. You can often build trust by just taking a moment to better understand the true origin of your team member's concern. But to answer this specific question, our job architecture is global and includes every job. It's a fair and equitable structure that makes us more competitive. Our motivation has truly been to become an employer of choice by giving managers the structure and tools they need to better manage their teams and reward our people. Are we supposed to share level information with our team members? No. As we all know, the best people leaders manage toward career growth, not toward alphanumeric codes. Our job leveling codes are administrative and unique to CSI, so they're not transferable to other companies. No one would put a job level on a resume, for example. Generally speaking, job level codes are not motivating to employees. Since our levels are primarily administrative, the codes themselves do not provide a constructive, practical way to encourage professional growth. It's better for managers to understand what skills, education, and experience are needed for career growth at Cooper Surgical and then help team members understand the next steps that they need to take to advance. Remember, job architecture gives you more information on CSI levels and pay ranges, but how your team members can grow into a part of Cooper Surgical still depends on the needs and demands within your business area. When managers get caught up in codes and mathematical calculations like comp ratios, these codes are numbers. These codes and numbers set the terms for all future employee conversations. The moment that managers decide to talk about codes is the moment that codes will dominate every subsequent team conversation. If you have questions or concerns about sharing level living information, please be sure to work with your HR business partner who can help you shape positive, forward-looking conversations with your team members. Important communication principles. As we've worked to develop our job architecture, we've heard from many of our people leaders around the company. Many of you have shared some important principles that managers should keep in mind whenever they're discussing career growth with their team members. Regardless of whether the topic is job architecture or some other aspect of talent management, it's important to abide by these communication principles. See communication as an opportunity. This means we should look at every manager-employee conversation as a moment that could shape the overall employee's experience. A career life cycle that starts with recruitment and hiring, moves to performance review and promotion, and continues through retirement. Career development is an important topic for an employee, so any conversation you have on this front will likely be more memorable for your team member than it is for you. Make sure you use these defining moments to positively shape the employee's experience. Earn trust. We know from employee engagement surveys, Great Places to Work, Gallup, that CSI employees expect leaders to be more transparent and candid in providing direction in their career growth. Demonstrate when you can that you're open, transparent, accurate, and accountable in what you say. This is a particularly important thing to remember at Cooper Surgical, where changing is constant and employees look to you to mitigate uncertainty whenever possible. Model behavior. As this is the case for anything we do as a company, it's important for your managers to demonstrate their career understanding and support of the strategy. Employees look to managers for what's called the institutional leadership, the ability to advocate for what's good for the business, even when certain challenges might be difficult for the team to manage in the moment. When you can confidently represent the company's bigger strategy and demonstrate your own personal support, you're a better institutional leader. Your behavioral choices in demonstrating your support, things like body language, attitude, and how you make decisions, can speak volumes. Be direct. Straightforward and relatable language demonstrates your commitment to making things clear for your team members and colleagues. Replace any jargon with everyday words that mean exactly what you intend to communicate. And be credible. If you can't respond to a question in the moment, don't be afraid to say, "Hey, I don't know, but I'm going to find out for you." That statement has two parts. The first says that you're humble and aware of how important it is to be accurate. And the second says that you will follow through when you have the right information. So both parts of that statement will build your credibility as a leader. Lastly, interpret for your team. As with many Cooper Surgical strategies, it's important for leaders to sort through what's relevant locally and amplify the information that their teams need. When we talk about interpretation, we're referring both to language and culture, literal interpretation, and the priorities of your business area. We trust you to know what's in front of mind for your team members at any given moment. After this video, you should access our job architecture communication kits available to you on our simpler intranet platform on the Manager's Toolkit. This contains a set of frequently asked questions, or FAQs. The communication kit and FAQs cover a lot of topics. Some of these will be more relevant to your team than others. So please review these materials and focus on the guidance that is most important to your area of Cooper Surgical. Within these FAQs, there are some questions that we recommend addressing on a case-by-case basis, depending on the situation. Questions highlighted in red, asterisk, may require an additional conversation with your HR business partner, so be on the lookout for that. As always, our FAQs are a living document, so if you run across any questions that you think should be added to our ongoing list, please email your HRBP so that we can help the other people, leaders like you, address the same topic. Additional resources. As you become more familiar with your job architecture and the HCM process, you may need additional information. If you have more questions, please turn to the following resources. 1. The Job Architecture Communication Kit that will accompany this video and will be uploaded in the simpler intranet platform. One-on-one coaching through your HRBP if you need it. And lastly, HCM training and support, which the HR team offers throughout the merit process. As always, HR is here as an advisor and partner in developing your team. Please do not hesitate to reach out to your HR business partner on anything related to job architecture and career development. We look forward to working with you, and thank you for taking the time to participate in this video.